Turn to God our Father, let the words of our mouth and the meditation of our hearts be acceptable in your sight. For Lord, you are our strength and our redeemer. We ask that you would bless this show. Let it be enlightening and encouragement to those that are watching. Good evening, and thank you for tuning in to another week with Fathers Who Care. And you know, as always, we just want to thank you all for the work that you've been doing this past week and these last 12 weeks. I want to thank them, that youth council in there, Amari, I think we got Marshayla, Walter, we got Nisha, we got Vernisha, we got Amari, all of those good people that make this show possible. But most of all, we want to thank you, the viewing audience, for all of the support that you've been giving to this group and to our youth council over the weeks. Listen, it's been a pleasure as always to come to you each week with information and individuals that we have found to be really compassionate, involved, sincere about the plight of what's going on in the community. And tonight we want to kind of take a little spin on the show. We want to take a spin in that we want to bring to you information and possible public legislation or public awareness about community empowerment and what we can do as a community to empower each other. We think it's extremely important that we work together for the betterment of our people. It's important that we bridge gaps and we build relationships. It's also important that we understand that it takes us all to work together to create a wholesome environment. And so with that being said, I want to introduce you to a few guests in a few minutes. They're coming from the Illinois Attorney General's office, Lisa Madigan, and we want to talk to them specifically about a new initiative that's up and about, some things that's been going on in the community in relationship to reforming the Chicago Police Department or police reform. Some folks have been talking about other things in relationship with it, like roundtable discussions, community coming together, discussing different issues and concerns about a consent decree. But anyway, we're going to be talking to some guests tonight, and they're going to share with us what's going on. We have Skip on the end. And Skip, thank you so much as always.
Thank
Skip
you.
is, of course, from the Attorney General's office. And we have Bree, who's here, and she's ready to share with us as well. So this is going to be a nice show, and we're going to have some real interesting conversations about some things going on here and there. But as always, listen, this is Fathers Who Care. The number here is 312-738-1060. We want to encourage those who are watching tonight to call in and talk to us about what are you thinking, how are you thinking specifically about what is police reform, should there be a reform in the Chicago Police Department, how can we bridge the gap, and I don't know, maybe some of you all are familiar with the Illinois Attorney General's office and may want to know more about what services they're providing and identity theft, IRS scams. I know them all. I've felt them all. I've been victims of some of it. And sometimes I really get a little bit perturbed when I would get phone calls on my cell and they knew where I live. You know, like I know you. Really? And I'm about to call the folks back. I literally had to call you.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Yeah.
Because I was really concerned because these folks would call and it would be so convincing, right? Like we come into your house.
Absolutely.
Literally. But anyway, with that being said, so we're going to have some real conversation tonight. And we really want to get into some serious dialogue about who's doing what and why they're doing it. But listen, let's talk specific. I mean, you all had and are having a few roundtable discussions specifically on police reform and trying to get the community involved. Is that correct?
Correct.
Correct.
So with that being said, we're going to start off with that conversation. But first, if you don't mind, I would like to just try to get an understanding of who we have on the show. Folks can't come to this show and can't tell us who they are. They kind of have to just break the ice and kind of just tell us who they know. We know you're working for the state. We know you got that job. But we want to know who is Bree, and then we want to know who is Skip. We don't want to know, if you don't mind. We like to keep the professional thing to the side for a minute, and let's see the softer side.
Okay.
Bree.
Well, my name is Bria. I'm
Bria.
Bria. I'm from the south side of Chicago.
No.
I am. The Barnesville neighborhood.
Okay.
And, you know, I have 6 beautiful nieces and nephews that I like to spend time with. I've also been very passionate about civic engagement as well as diversity and inclusion.
Okay. So there's nothing else about Bree? No, that's it?
That's it.
That's it? Bree don't like the movies. Bree don't like walks on the lake. Bree don't like going up and down.
I like that too.
You like Is that cool too?
That's cool too.
Okay, well, Skip, how about you?
All right, so born and raised in Chicago, Chicago boy my whole life.
Yes, sir.
Went to school here, Luther High School, Luther South High School, Roosevelt University. Married to my wife Jackie. We're about to have our 27th anniversary in May.
Okay.
No kids, but we got three little critters in the house. We got 2 dogs and a cat. So that's the family.
Yeah, that is a family.
And we
And Bree got
love
nieces
Chicago.
and nephews.
We love Chicago. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it appears that you all have a passion, and the passion is strong. You particularly, and with your pets, or I guess you say your children.
They are. They are.
And you with your nieces and nephews.
Yeah.
And they are your children. So is that all that you want to share about yourselves personally?
Yeah. I mean, unless you got
I
any
bet you all are
specific thing.
workaholics.
Right now we are, because we're really, really busy. So right now we are.
I figured that much.
We try to
You know-
see if we can get through this period right here.
You know,
but right now
it
we're working
kind of
very
take
hard.
one to know one,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I kind of understand what
Yeah.
you're
We
saying.
do
Absolutely.
important work. We do really important work, and it makes it easy. I think.
Yeah.
It's fun.
And so what I hope to do tonight, if you would allow me, we want to lay back and kind of keep this thing kind of light, but we want to be on point. So we really want to talk tonight about, what are some of the services of the Illinois Attorney General's office. What are you all doing? We heard some things about roundtable discussions, and we wanted to find out exactly what was the essence of these discussions. Particularly, we heard that it was about some kind of consent decree for police reform, and we want to just get clarity. Is that okay if we talk about that tonight?
Absolutely.
You're watching Father Suquet. The number here is 312-738-1060. We got, of course, our friends from the Illinois Attorney General's office, and we're here talking about what is police reform, what can we do to bridge relationships, how can we, have more community dialogue and kind of break the ice, and folks communicating again about what's best for the community. So let's get back to some old values. So let's start off by saying, so what do you believe, what is some of the issues and or concerns folks are having in their relationships with law enforcement?
Well, I think there's some clear problems here. I think that the Department of Justice report laid out a number of them. I think that some of the things that were addressed, like training and
Okay.
use of force, are certainly things
And
that.
possibly sensitivity.
But I think the
Stress.
important.
Yeah.
But I think it's important that we come together as a community
Yeah.
to decide, the changes that need to be made, how we move forward from here.
So we were making it light, but now there is in all honesty, there's been some roundtable discussions, and the Attorney General's office has been holding these discussions to talk about some kind of consent decree. We're going to take a call, and when we come back, we would like for you to respond to that. But if you don't mind, before we respond to that, keep that on your thought. What are the services and activities that the Illinois Attorney General's office is providing to the community, and how can the community kind of tap some of these resources? Let's get a call. Caller to you on air. Your comment and question for Bree and or Skip.
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can hear
I'm
you.
going to ask your guest, Attorney General. Everybody go around for mayor, like Paul Bowers and all them. They go around for mayor, and Willie get worse than them. And then Rod Manuel, Eddie Johnson, and Kemp White, they need to step down. They ain't doing their job.
Oh, okay. All right. Do you have a question tonight specifically to Bree or Skip in relationship to community engagement? What is police reform? How can we bridge the gap, or anything in that faction? Thank you so much for the call. Did you hear what he was saying?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
let's go back. Skip, talk to me.
Okay.
Now, if you want to respond to any of the questions of the guests, you can, but we'd like for you to respond to the questions I posed, all right?
Okay.
You're watching Father Suquet. The number here is 312-738-1060. Obviously, the phone lines are open. Go ahead, Skip.
Well, and actually regarding the guest, I don't think he really had a question. I think he had a comment, so
Yes.
we heard that. So that's fine. As far as what the Attorney General office does, the Attorney General is the chief legal officer for the state of Illinois, and that office is charged with protecting the public interests of the state and all of its citizens.
Okay.
And we're supposed to do that by 3 methods. We're supposed to advocate on your behalf. We're supposed to legislate. That means we'll work with the General Assembly to draft laws we feel are necessary. And 3, we will litigate. We'll go to court to enforce those laws that come under our jurisdiction. Our office is broken up into bureaus. Our largest bureau is consumer fraud.
Consumer fraud.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Sure, go ahead. Go ahead.
You had mentioned about the
Of course I
IRS. Seeing as this is tax time, I think it would be remiss if I didn't mention that. Of course, and people have received these phone calls about the IRS, and
Right.
usually that phone call is it's a very threatening phone call. They identify themselves as the IRS. They say you owe this money. You've got to pay it right away. You're under surveillance. They're going to arrest you. Very threatening.
Yeah.
So first of all, we want to make it clear the IRS is not going to call you. That's the first thing. Okay. Now, recently from the IRS field office here in Illinois, they have indicated that they've got a little. They've switched it up a little bit, and what they've done now is they will actually go and fraudulently file a tax return on your behalf in your name, have the money deposited into your account, okay? But then they're going to follow up, again, identifying themselves as the IRS, and then they want you to give this money back. They'll say that you got it by mistake, they gave you too much, and they want you to give this money back to them.
Okay.
If you know you haven't filed your return in the first place, okay, then you know that can't be the case. So our suggestion is if there's anything going wrong or somebody says or you see some money that's been deposited at IRS and you have not filed your return, you need to call the IRS and let them know that.
Okay. Okay. So you heard it. Beware of identity theft. Beware the IRS scams. Beware of these consumer frauds. I mean, trust me, I'm telling you, I was a victim, and it can happen. It can happen like this, and you'll be sending your money away on gift cards, and you won't get anything in return.
Right.
Trust me. So, Bree, talk to us about the round tables that you all have been engaged in, and what's the purpose of the round tables?
So from the very beginning of this process, we knew that it was important to have community input. So we want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to be a part of this process. So we have our roundtables are led by Joe Horwath. He's with UIC School for Civic Engagement. And we get to talk about a few issues that would be in the consent decree. So things like training or use of force, things like community policing. We bring people in different communities together to talk about those issues. And we're doing 10 to 15 of these meetings in neighborhoods across the city. So we've been to the Pullman neighborhood, we've been to Pilsen, we just had one in Garfield Park. So we want to make sure that there is plenty of opportunities for people to be a part of this.
And so what are you trying to gain by having these community roundtables? What's the purpose, what's the essence of, or the expected outcome of these roundtables?
Well, I don't think there's necessarily an expected outcome. I think it's more about making sure that we are all engaged in
Okay,
this.
so it's just an opportunity for folks to have conversation and to understand the different changes or the different decrees or different policies, or what is it that we're trying to
Sure.
get?
So also the feedback that we get from these
Okay, feedback.
roundtables
That's good.
is it's collected by UIC School by Joe Horwath and his team.
Okay,
And there will be a report. So everything, all of the feedback that we get from the community roundtables will be part of a report, although the feedback at all of the community events are anonymous.
okay.
So our goal is to put that in the report, and also, of course, to make sure that the attorneys that are negotiating this are armed with that information from the community.
So
as
we're
part of this
basically trying to
process.
give the community an opportunity to have some meaningful dialogue about different issues in relationship to Chicago Police Department or reform in the Chicago Police Department. Is that fair?
What we want to, actually, what we're looking for is we want to be sure that this consent decree that we're working on actually reflects what the community wants.
Like a community benefits agreement.
Yeah, in a sense, a little bit.
In a sense, I'm kind of
But
being a little
we
bit
want to
vague, but-
reflect. We want them to tell us what changes do you want to see in Chicago PD, and we want to have that reflected so that when we have the finished product of this consent decree, what they have told us over the course of all these discussions is actually reflected in that consent decree.
Okay, we want to thank Brian Jessup, Stephen Wright, Leroy Jackson. We got a whole following over here Michelle and Sherry and Raymond and Antonio and Kimmy. You got a lot of folks following you guys.
That's good.
So let's come on back and talk some more. So here we was talking specifically about these community roundtables. Now let's back up. What are really some of the services and or if folks was interested in getting in touch with the Illinois Attorney General's office and they really had some other issues going on outside of the IRS phone calls, or I heard some identity theft. I mean, those are things that's a real serious. I think they're extremely serious. What are some of the other things that folks normally would call if they need help?
Absolutely. So we talked about consumer fraud. That's our biggest bureau.
Yeah.
If you run, and we obviously don't want anybody to be a victim, but if they should be, they can call our office and file a complaint with us, and we will look into it and try to see if we can resolve that situation.
I've had a situation before where I called on you because folks will do you wrong, and some things were easily resolved just from a phone call.
Okay.
So I really appreciate that the services that are being provided through the Illinois Attorney General's office and the people in the office, are just so polite.
That's good. That's good.
I'm speaking from the ones that I know of. And they were so nice, they were so attentive, they were so supportive. So let's go back to you, Bree. We were talking specifically about these round tables and what we're trying to establish and what we're trying to get folks back together dialoguing. Mm-hmm. If we were talking about trying to bridge the relationship, or if we was trying to create a better relationship, which I believe is important, between law enforcement, i.e. the police, and the community, what would be some ways that we can do that?
Well, I think it's important for everyone to weigh in on that.
Okay.
I think that we'd like for community members to come out to these meetings and really share their thoughts on it.
Okay.
I think that's the reason why we're doing this.
So you believe that the more we talk about things, the better off we are. So if we communicate enough, we maybe come to a meeting of the minds, huh?
I hope so.
So now there's a series of different roundtables going on, and so where's the next one?
So our next one is going to be in Rogers Park. It's Tuesday. It's April 3rd at the Bernard Horwich Jewish Community Center.
And you just did one at the Johnny L. Miller Center.
Correct.
Yes.
In Garfield Park.
This Tuesday. It's
Okay,
past
and
Tuesday.
so you have a series. Now, if folks were interested in trying to attend some of these roundtables, how could they get in touch with you guys in order to get additional information?
Probably the best thing is just tell them to go to our website.
Okay, give them the website.
We have a special website when it comes to the Chicago Police Consent Decree. And the address is www.chicagopoliceconsentdecree.org. Again, let me give that. www.chicagopoliceconsentdecree.org. And all of that is run together, no spaces, no need to capitalize.
So again, you're watching Fathers Who Care, and the conversation we're having tonight is specific about trying to bridge relationships and create some dialogue between the community and law enforcement, and how can we better communicate with each other in an overall goal to kind of develop some policies and procedures that's beneficial for all, specifically the community. We're not bashing anyone, we're just talking about ways to have some serious conversation. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
So you have an opportunity to tell the audience what is it that you would like for them to know specifically about the Attorney General's office and what the Attorney General is doing, in what area it might be.
Well, I think particularly about police reform.
Okay.
This is going to be enforced by a federal judge as well as an independent monitor.
Okay.
So no matter down the line who's in office, I think it's important to recognize that there is enforcement here.
Okay.
So that's why we really want to make sure that everyone is aware.
So why is it
This
important though, Bree? Why is it important for folks to stop talking about it and being about it and coming out into the community, come out from the places of where you're comfortable living and get into these conversations and come to these roundtables? Why is that so important?
It's important that we have the community's input. If we want to have the consent decree reflect what the community wants, therefore the community has got to come out and talk to us. Tell us what you want to see. Okay.
So don't complain if you're not going to be
Absolutely,
involved.
be a part of the process.
If you're not involved in the process, you're part of the problem.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go back. Go ahead.
Well,
I felt it.
No, I was just going to say I understand that people might feel like we've been here before, that we've had these conversations before.
But you're going to have conversations, and you're going to be places before. You know, that's how change is about.
Right,
That's what brings
exactly.
about change.
Exactly.
Change don't happen overnight. You know,
Exactly.
some things you have to plant the seed, then nurture the seed, and water the seed, all that good stuff, right? Talk to us then, Bree.
No, I think exactly what you just said. I think it's important for us to not give up on this very important issue, but I think that we're in a time where this is a real opportunity for change.
Okay.
And I think that, it's important for everyone to just come together with
Right,
to
right.
to
And
bring
the other thing is too, we're trying to have this in place by the end of the summer. So
Okay.
we want to submit, we're going to, after we do all of these roundtables around the community, and we're coming back to the west side. We're going to do one in Lawndale. We're going to do one in Austin. We're coming back to the south side in Chatham. We still got a lot more to do. So we really want people to go to the website. Again, that's chicagopoliceconsentdecree.org. But after we do all of these, we're going to put that report, we're going to publish it on the website. And it's going to sit there for maybe 30, 45 days. And people can still comment on what's there. We may tweak it a little bit, but then before we want to have that out there before we submit it to the judge so that they can enter it. And we want to have this in place by fall so that
Right.
once the consent decree is in place, it doesn't matter who comes in after the Attorney General. People know that Lisa Madigan is not running for re-election, so we will have a new Attorney General come next year. They will be bound by this consent decree, so they will have to enforce this consent decree.
Okay, so here we're talking tonight, guys, specifically with the Illinois Attorney General's office. We have Bree and we have Skip, and they were so gracious to come on out. Thank you, Eileen, for all of your support. I really appreciate you. And thank you all for coming out to talk to the community specifically about what we can do to engage, to empower, and to enlighten the community. So we want to bring the folks together. We want folks to have a voice. We want folks to be actively involved. We want folks not to be afraid to relate or deal with law enforcement. We don't want folks to be afraid to answer phones. We don't want folks to be afraid to go purchase things.
Right.
But, folks are living in a state of fear, literally. And I think for the most part, the whole city is probably have the issue of being chronically traumatized, just chronic trauma,
Right.
But anyway, that's another subject. I was having a moment. Talk to us, Skip. What is it that you would like for the folks to know specifically about the Attorney General's office that can bring relief and or support to them to engage them more?
Well, in addition to this effort here that we're doing regarding police reform, there are wide things arranged that we do. We have a number of bureaus. So we've got a Veterans Bureau. We've got a Seniors Bureau. We've got Public Utilities, Civil Rights, Charitable Trusts. There's a lot of scams happening in charities, but if there's a 501c3, a non-for-profit operating here in Illinois, they have to be in compliance with our office. So we have that Charitable Trust Division. So there are a number of bureaus out there. And the best thing I can say is this: anytime you have a question, please, there is no such thing as a silly question.
So do you have a
call
number
us.
you want to give?
Absolutely.
Give them a number, please.
Absolutely. Our general number is area code 312-814-3000. And again, that's 312-814-3000.
Well, thank you, Skip. Now, Bree, it appears that you were having a passion there about getting folks talking. Why is that? Why are you so passionate about folks communicating and coming out to these round tables? I felt a certain passion from you in relationship to why so.
Well, I think that we want to make sure this is done right.
Okay.
I think that we have seen too many tragedies. I think that we are, as a community, there's a lack of trust between the community and police, and I think it's important that we finally do something about that.
Yeah. Well, hey to you too, Elaine, and Brian, and Sharon, Stephen, and all of you people. Listen, we're talking to Skip, we're talking to Bree from the Illinois Attorney General's office, excuse me, and we're talking about how to engage the folks. And we wanted to engage the folks in a few ways. First of all, we don't want you to be afraid of the Attorney General's office. It is your office, your tax
Absolutely.
dollars.
We work for you.
Utilize the services.
Right.
They're literally for you, and you would know what you can get out of these services until you literally call over to the office. But we really wanted to talk specifically about folks coming out and coming to join some of these roundtable discussions in relationship to what we can do to provide some meaningful input and to establishing a process and meaningful relationships on reforming the Chicago Police Department, or reforming relationships with the Chicago Police Department, or in the creation of this consent decree that we were talking about, right? But also we wanted you to know that, listen, right now, Skip just said it, it's the tax season. Folks are scamming folks. People are stealing folks' identity. I mean, there's all kind of stuff going on. Listen, don't be a victim. If it sounds too good to be true, 9 times out of 10, it is too good to be true. You're watching Fathers Who Care right now, and I thank you all for holding your calls and holding your thoughts. And I asked them earlier that if we had some folks that were calling who wasn't even cool and sounding cool, we wasn't having you on the show tonight. So give us some closing comments. And thank you all on Facebook and for tuning in. Go ahead, Skip.
Well, you mentioned identity theft, so I just want to mention we got an ID theft bureau too.
Okay.
We know that's a very serious situation. It's always in our list of top 10 consumer fraud problems. If anybody thinks that they've been affected by that, all they have to do is call our office. Our bureau is really set up to hold their hands through the process and guide them through all the steps that they need to take to try to resolve that situation. So,
Well, we have about a minute,
Okay.
second, half of a minute.
Okay.
Go ahead, Bree, your turn. Give us some closing comments you'd like for us to know.
Well, I just want to make sure that everyone is aware of the consent decree process. Come to our website, but please come to our community roundtables. If you have a story that you want to share, if you have suggestions about police reform, please come out and join us.
And I believe on March, I think the 3rd is in Rogers Park. I think the 9th I heard, or is that By the Hand on the west side?
By the Hand on the West Side is,
Right.
is April 9th.
Right. So there's opportunities for you to come out and be involved. We want to thank you all for tuning in for these last 13 weeks. And listen, we'll keep doing it. Our young folks will be showcasing the show, or should I be saying hosting the show next week. So tune in next week where you'll be seeing the West Garfield Park Youth Council. And we love you. God bless you. Happy Easter. All that beautiful stuff. Listen, be a blessing to someone else. God bless you. Good night. And keep the faith, and we'll see you on the other side.
Great.
Peace.
Good night.
Be still.
Good night.
Peace. Be still. We'll talk to you then, and we'll see you later.